Hello and welcome, Exiles, to the final conclusion to my Deadeye Spectral Throw character. It started out as Molten Strike Deadeye, then it became Molten Strike Raider. Now it's Deadeye Spectral Throw because I wanted to try Spectral Throw. I had the Banana MTX from, I forget when Math will convince me to buy it, but I have it. And so I wanted to use it and try out Spectral Throw, see how it felt with this character setup. And I gotta say, feels pretty good. But ultimately, all good things must come to an end, and there's some other builds I want to play this week, so I want to do the final conclusion video for my setup of the character. Ultimately, the gear isn't too different than the Raider, the setup I had before. The main difference is I swapped to Deadeye, and I grabbed Far Shot plus Endless Munitions. Basically, it's just for some nice quality of life and some damage from Far Shot for Spectral Throw. I'm not really sure how to optimize Spectral Throw. I'm not a Spectral Throw expert or anything. This is just what I ended up doing. I'm sure I probably should go for a Spectral Throw enchant, not a Molten Strike enchant, but I cannot be bothered running that amount of labs. The other big change is swapping to this massive Thread of Hope, which was in my most recent video about Thread of Hopes. Moral of the story is this thing has crazy good value with how many notables we pick up, and it also allowed us, since we're speccing next to the Charisma wheel, and this mana reservation falls within this wheel, it actually allows us to fit Wrath into the build. So now we not only have Wrath and Anger, but it works out pretty well for some nice base damage. Ultimately, if I did this same sort of setup, stayed as Raider, and did Molten Strike, the character would probably be optimally better DPS. I would imagine. Raider itself, I think, or Molten Strike itself is, I think, is just a higher DPS skill than Spectral Throw is, but Spectral Throw, I'd say, is quite a bit more fun for mapping. So I got together today a showcase of a Cursed Crypt Veritania, which I'm actually looking at this and I'm like, do I really want to run Cursed Crypt? Not really. That map does not sound fun to me. Let's try to get a map that doesn't sell Cursed Crypt. Okay, Park. Okay, we're good. We got a map that doesn't suck to run. Okay. This will be a good showcase of what the character looks like while mapping, and then after that, I have spec'd into Uber Maven. I tried an Uber Cirrus, an Uber Shaper, an Uber Elder. I did not have a invitation to try a Eater, and I didn't really want to spec to do Exarch, so I haven't tried those, but from my experience so far, we were able to do Uber Shaper, we were able to do Uber Elder, and we got wrecked by ground degen by Cirrus. There's something about having a character that's sustain is dependent on you hitting the enemy and having an enemy that goes into you can't attack me modes. When you step on a bunch of degen, you get degen down to like 10% of your HP. By the time you see the degen you're standing on, get off it and then be like, okay, I need to regen, but I can't hit anything. It just doesn't work out too well. So Cirrus is kind of rough. We took him to the last phase, but we weren't able to bring it home. And the Uber Shaper and Uber Elder, I had like 4 or 5 deaths on both of those fights. They were not the cleanest. Ultimately, this character is probably better suited as just a mapper, but the fact we were even able to do those fights, I was pretty happy with. So let's go ahead and run do Essence, whatever, Maven, and Veritania, just to give you guys an idea of what the mapping looks like. This character, I was really happy with the mapping. It felt super clean. The tankiness of this character felt fairly good, was able to survive like the Shaper death ball phases and stuff like that, tank multiple Shaper balls. Ultimately, the weakness of, what's the word? The weakness of, I don't know why I'm spacing out on this. The weakness of fizz damage is definitely present in the Uber fights. For most content, it really just doesn't matter. But the second you go to something like an Uber Elder or Uber Shaper, they have coded things like the Shaper Slam to be unavoidable and still an attack, so it doesn't get mitigated by spell suppression. And even though we have, what's our evasion? Even though we have 58,000 evasion, we still get to die to the attack because for whatever reason they gave a resolute technique, which in of itself I think is kind of stupid, but it's what it is, and that's just how it be. So this is what it looks like doing something like a previous endgame content of like a Conqueror. It's pretty clean for that. That's no problem. It's only really the Uber bosses when it's like, okay, we start to feel that, hey, we could use some more damage on this character than what we currently have. That would definitely be more ideal, right? Type of situation. But ultimately, in the end, it does what I set out for it to do, which is some nice clean mapping, feels good movement speed, just kind of zipping around, grabbing stuff whenever the time be. I'm not particularly good with managing Nightblade and Elusive and resetting at the appropriate times and all that sort of stuff, but I'm sure if you are mechanically gifted at the game, that would be something you could keep the uptime on Nightblade to the higher percentage up for more of it. I just have Withering Step on left click, and I hope that's enough to have it up a decent amount, but I'm not sure if I should be, like, I don't know, playing it in a more mechanical, better way or something like that. So, anyways, this is the showcase for the mapping, what it looks like while showcasing it, and we just picked up Soul Eater, so that is just crazy when you get Soul Eater. We're actually probably getting limited by our mana sustain there, because we do still have a 2 mana cost to that skill, and there's no way we're sustaining that attack speed. You can min-max the gear to get it down to a 0 mana cost, but I have not done that. Alright, so now for the boss showcase. The Uber Maven, or just Uber Maven, I guess. It's not double Uber, it's just one Uber. Maybe next patch, or the patch after that, it'll be twice the Uber, we'll see. I know this fight okay-ish. Out of all the fights, I would think this is actually one of the easier Ubers. For this build, I'm not 100% sure that's the case or not. I would think it would be the case. I know Sears definitely seems like probably the hardest build for this fight, just because the ground degens and the you can't attack me phases. So hopefully... Can I tank this? Okay. We do have enough sustain for that. I am kind of curious to see... Life gain on hit seems to be able to... Oh, what's the word? It doesn't care about Maven's no regen thing. So these lasers, I guess we can stand in, and that's fine. That being said, I'm gonna get myself killed to this phase. Oh no! Oh, it's fine. It's fine. I wasn't paying attention, but we're fine. I guess technically my character's fast enough. I could just run around and always get those balls on the outside, but whatever. This is one of the better scenarios for Spectral Throw because of how large the brain is. You can end up getting so many extra hits out of Spectral Throw. So that's like, that single target there is definitely not represented well in terms of what the single target actually is, because we're just getting way more hits than we should be getting, right? But I should preface that is all I'm thinking. And keep holding down. I think we can tank this. That seemed a little bit more risky.
Take this. Do what I say. A cascade of pain. Stand still.
Wait, okay, hold on. No, I still get life gain on hit. Do I get Ghost Shrouds? Yeah, I still get Ghost Shrouds. Sorry, I'm just mentally thinking through... Oh, no. I'm mentally thinking through... For a second there, I thought when she did Cascade of Pain, I wasn't sure I was getting life gain on hit, but I probably was. I was just kind of imagining that I wasn't. I just was taking hits from Cascade of Pain, so that's definitely a factor there. All in all, his character's defenses, between the flasks, between the max res, that sort of stuff, it all feels pretty good. The weakness really is the boss attacks that are attacks, and for whatever reason they've been coded to not be avoidable. The other thing about this... Oh shoot, I was not watching this. I don't really... Was it this? Okay. I should have technically been watching that a little bit closer, but hopefully it's fine. Sorry, I just completely lost my train of thought there. What I was saying is the character's defensive layers I'm fairly happy with. The weaknesses are, of course, fizz attacks when they actually hit you, and there are scenarios where the game codes attacks to always hit you even if you have evasion, which is unfortunate. Outside of that, we could improve the character's defensive layers as well, because I was too lazy to roll my... oh, what's the word? I was too lazy to roll the implicits on my gloves, so I have 2 additional strikes on my gloves currently, and it could be 2 max res. So we could be at 87 max all res right now with basically no additional cost, just rolling a different implicit on my Eldritch implicits on the gloves. Because I still have the 2 additional strikes from what I had when I was a Molten Strike character. I still have the wrong enchant, stuff like that I could improve. Ultimately, we could get +2 AoE on my gloves, but I've hit the point where I'm just like, I don't really feel like crafting it anymore. I don't feel like min-maxing the gear anymore. I do get to that point sometimes in builds. It has to be an extremely, I don't know, a build I like to an extreme extent to continue min-maxing gear after upgrading gear multiple times, sort of thing. I guess technically with this character, I don't care about the no regen, so I can probably just run into that stuff and not care too much. Was that left? I think it was this. Was it all the way around? Okay, it was like that.
Stand still. A cascade of pain.
Oh, we're probably gonna die to that. Yep. I was thinking we might die to that attack because we had lost our basically, when there's a long invulnerability phase, this is part of the issue with Sirius, is when this character kind of needs some level of ramp, so to speak, and when you... I didn't think that was gonna kill me. Okay. That's embarrassing. You guys didn't see that. Erase that from your memory. I didn't press the thing that time. I was gonna say this character needs ramp. Because I need power charges, I need frenzy charges for my character to actually operate the way it's supposed to. So on things like Sirius, did that attack just start doing more damage than it was? Like, okay, this is my first time doing this fight on this character, but I could have sworn that we had just straight up tanked that attack in the earlier phases. I don't know if it just does more damage at the later phases, or I'm somehow not proccing one of my flasks that caps my res. But I guess I was under the wrong impression that that thing did no damage, and I did not do that phase, so I'm just gonna let it go off. Anyways, moral of the story is, I'm pretty happy with the defensive layers. Don't pay attention to the fact we've died multiple times to Uber Maven. It was gonna be clean, guys, until I started bricking everything. We don't talk about that though, okay? The part where we started bricking this whole fight, just pretend that did not occur. I tank this. I do not tank this.
Stand still. A cascade of pain.
It's fine. Oh, I thought we were gonna make it without having her phase. Anyways, yeah. Moral of the story is we need power charges, we need frenzy charges to do good single target. And whenever I have a long phase like this, where the boss is like, hey, you can't attack me, you have to do something else, we obviously lose all of our... I was not paying attention to this. I am... Okay. Whenever we lose all of our charges and have to restart those, there's this period where we're basically not dealing damage, because the majority of our scaling is based on those charges existing in our character. And until we hit the boss a few times, we're not gonna have those charges, right? By the end of this fight here, we got those charges back, but there's that ramp time, and that ramp time is awkward. I don't necessarily like ramp times like that in general. When I can avoid it, I try to, but it's definitely a factor you have to consider with builds. Part of the reason I don't like Berserker is whenever you're fighting, doing boss fights, and you die in the middle of them, you have to restart the boss fight. Starting out that fight with 0 rage, 0 blitz charges. You start out basically as a character that doesn't feel like it has an ascendancy until you've ramped those the rage generation, until you've ramped the blitz charges. Stuff like that feels really scuffed. But 7 power and frenzy charges, they don't take too long to generate, but ultimately you do still feel them when you're doing stuff like Cirrus. Things like Maven, obviously, here with her invulnerability memory game phase, we lose the charges because that phase lasts longer than 10 seconds, which means we're going to have no charges going into, you know, her getting back on the map, and you have to re-ramp those, and there's some awkwardness there. For fights like, for Shaper, Uber Elder, those fights aren't too bad because they don't have those long invulnerability phases. You're able to attack most of the time during it. And then you have something like a Uber Exarch and Uber Eater of Worlds. Those would be fights where you will lose the charges in their invulnerability phases, where you have to run around and do the, I don't know, charge the spheres thing in Eater of the Worlds, or dodge the balls in Syrian Exarch. But ultimately, this character, really good at mapping. It can do the endgame decently, but it's not a bosser at the end of the day. It's more of a mapping character, ultimately. Spectral Throw, definitely on the weaker single target. If I did Molten Strike for these things, probably go better. And then if I went for Lightning Strike, it'd be the best of both worlds. It'd be better single target, and it'd be better clear. But that's just not Molten Strike. That's Lightning Strike things, and we didn't really want to do that because it's just boring. It's stale, right? Yeah, that'll be the last video for this character. I'm pretty happy with how it turned out. My main recommendations for the character, if you try to make this character, is don't do triple temple mod gloves. Just do double temple mod gloves. Go for the fire res mod and the chill damage mod. You can get crit capped, I think, pretty much without this crit chance mod, I believe. So don't waste a ton of currency making these. Just make the double mod pair, and you're going to be happy in crafted life, right? The other things I would say about this character are, ultimately, if you want the character to be a lot more affordable, go for Raider to start out with. Get the free suppression, the spell avoid, or the ailment avoidance. That way you don't have to craft with loathing essences on your boots. That makes these boots way cheaper. And then you don't have to hit like spell suppression on your chest, for example. Stuff like that makes the gearing way cheaper. Ultimately, this character, I would give it kind of probably a 7 out of 10, 8 out of 10 in terms of all like well-roundedness. It was very clean for mapping. I didn't really die much on this character, I don't think. Let's see what our slash deaths are. We've died 45 times, and that's been, majority has been essence monsters with the double keystone setup on basically T16, Crimson Temples, and Shores. So I think that's pretty solid, I would say, considering we've been running Alk and Go. Basically, we can run all map mods. You need to avoid Elemental Reflect if you don't have Awakened Elemental damage with attacks. And you need to actually end up avoiding Fizz Reflect, as we still hit ourselves hard enough with Fizz damage, even though we don't deal a lot of Fizz damage. That Fizz Reflect is one of the mods we need to avoid. But ultimately, this build could run basically all map mods except for basically Fizz Reflect or Elia Reflect if you don't have Awaken Elemental damage with attacks. Anyways, that's the character. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Sorry I didn't min-max it past this extent. I actually am really excited about the next character I want to do, which is going to be a Call the Void build, and I'll reveal more about that in the next video. Hopefully you guys enjoy. Take care, Exiles.